For the next few minutes, I want to tell you a little bit about why a strategic plan for your organization is simply not enough, why you need a system to capitalize on the opportunities that your business is facing right now. My name's Jeff Standridge, and I'm working with my colleague, Ryan Johnson. And for just the next few minutes, we're going to walk you through some very crystal clear, concrete concepts for how we have helped over 120 companies to plan and seize their future and ultimately to create sustainable growth. I've had the opportunity to study success and excellence even in individuals, teams, and organizations. I've done it academically and I've done it practically in organizations on 5 continents in multiple countries around the world. And most companies have at least 2 or 3 of these components. They have a mission. They know why they exist. They have a strategy for how they're going to bring that mission to reality, and they have a culture. But what they don't understand is, I like to use the words of Peter Drucker, who said that culture will eat strategy for breakfast, meaning doesn't matter how strong, how well thought out your strategy is or how well thought out your strategic plan is. If you don't have a good, strong, positive culture within the organization, a culture of excellence, as we describe it, it will actually consume your strategy.
That's great, Jeff. And so a lot of people don't really know what culture is. So what is culture? Well, let's define it. So I want to bring up these 3 words to you: shared, approach, and personality. So we all have to be moving in the same direction. We have to share the same values and beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors. We have to approach our work and our decisions the same way. We have to be on the same team. We have to work together. And when that happens, we create this collective personality that gets things done at a greater pace. We multiply our efforts. And so this is what the structure looks like when you have strong leadership. These 6 components here: the strong leadership, empowering communication, engaging teammates, accountability, agility, clarity, and focus. That all comes together to create a great culture of excellence. Jeff, what would you add to this, though?
Yeah, these are the actual 6 components that we have seen in organizations that have used a good strategic growth system to really focus on building that culture of excellence. These are the 6 components that we see commonly in companies that are excelling in that regard. When we talk about strategic planning, we've almost just banned the use of the term strategic planning in our organization because it's done so badly in so many organizations. So we like to use the word a strategic growth system to create a strategic growth plan because it's a little more definitive. We like to say no 3-ring binders allowed because most strategic planning efforts do just that. They capture a big 3-inch thick 3-ring binder, put all the documents in it, and no one can tell you on request what actually is in that strategic plan. A good quality strategic growth plan will say as much about what you're not going to do as an organization as it does about what you are going to do, at least by omission. It's not a substitute for leadership judgment. It basically just creates a framework within which leaders can make better decisions. And a compelling plan or a compelling statement of mission, vision, and values, not only does it fuel collective effort within an organization, but it becomes a standard against which you can measure potential distractions, shiny objects, if you will. And that's why we like to say that a plan isn't enough. You actually need to wrap that plan with a system, which we're going to show you here over the next few minutes. Our strategic growth system is based upon the best practices from not only 30 years of actually doing this on 5 continents myself, working with Ryan with companies as well, his own experiences that he brings to the table, but it also takes the best, some of the best from some of the top thought leaders in the areas of planning, like Gino Wickman in Traction and Vern Harnish with Scaling Up, but also in measuring what matters from John Doerr, the concept of KPIs and OKRs, the concepts of executing with excellence in the 4 disciplines of execution, how to build and maintain great teams, how to actually make sure that you have strong habits with your organization. In fact, James Clear actually said, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And so we're going to talk about the systems that you need to be able to create strategic growth, sustain strategic growth. And those systems really revolve around 3 words. Ryan gave you 3 words about culture a few moments ago. I'm going to give you 3 key words around strategic acceleration. First is clarity. the ability to get crystal clear about the purpose, the direction of your organization, as well as about the outcomes you want to drive. Who are you? Where are you going? And how are you going to get there? You got to have clarity on that. Secondly, you've got to have focus. You have to have a laser-like guidance system that it prevents you from being distracted by those shiny objects. And then finally, the ability to execute is determined when you are able to stop deploying resources, either time, people, or money, in one direction in favor of deploying them in another direction, because it's going to create a better return for you. Clarity, focus, execution. We like to answer 10 major questions when we are working with an organization to help them build out their strategic growth system. And those 10 questions, you can see them on the screen. I'm not going to read all of those, but I want to tell you that they all fit within the overarching questions of who are we, where are we going, and how are we going to get there. The first 3 questions really revolve around who are we. The next 3 or 4 questions deal with where are we going. And then finally, the last 3 questions or so are the things that we answer to determine how are we going to get where we said we're going by the time we said we're going to get there. Strategic growth system. And then when we arrange them all together, I like to describe it as a top-down planning process to enable bottoms-up management. And that's really where the rubber meets the road, is in that golden element at the bottom, which we call the meeting and review cadence. So how often are you looking at your plan? What's the process to make sure that you're staying on track, that you're ensuring 100% accountability to that plan, and that you're not being distracted by those shiny objects? We use that. We use a number of other tools. For instance, our accountability chart that helps us to determine who actually is responsible for what. That's where a lot of things get messed up, because we have people who are sharing responsibilities, and then as a result of that sharing, things drop through the cracks. We look at quarterly priorities versus just looking at annual objectives. And that's because in my experience, it takes about 90 to 100 days, about a quarter, to get off track. We start off like gangbusters. We're all excited. And then something happens 90, 95, 100 days down the road that gets us distracted. We have a forest fire. We have some kind of a fire drill, a dumpster fire, whatever you want to call it in terms of whatever analogy that you use. And we look up and, oh my goodness, we've not looked at our plan in 11 months, and it's now time to close out the year. We measure our key performance indicators. Those KPIs are the things that help us keep our thumb on the economic engine of the organization. We resolve issues on a weekly basis, and we do that through that very consistent weekly monitoring and review cadence. When we talk about an accountability chart, this is an example of what it might look like. Now, obviously, in your organizations, the 5 functions of the organization might be different. The critical thing is to actually define what are the major functions within your organization, the boxes. What are the major responsibilities within each function? In other words, what are the lines of accountability within that function? Those are the bullets. Then and only then do we decide who are the right people to put in those boxes. Boxes, bullets, and then bodies. That's how we go about building an accountability chart that ultimately ends up being a dynamic organizational structure. When we look at key performance indicators, we want to make sure that we have a balanced approach. And we can either look at Kaplan and Norton's balanced scorecard approach. We can look at Kevin Cope's seeing the big picture. But basically what we're saying is 4 or 5 major categories that we want to make sure that we're looking at on a weekly basis, key indicators in those categories on a weekly basis, to make sure that we have a balanced view of how our business is performing. And then that planning cadence. I've talked a lot about that. So the planning cadence is very, very critical because, and this is where we actually systematize a strategic plan. So once we have an annual plan, and I just finished a plan with an organization in Chicago over the last 2 days. We built out our Q1 priorities, those 90-day quarterly priorities. And so we're going to be tracking those on a weekly basis. At the end of Q1, we're going to come back and look at how did we do against our weekly priorities, our quarterly priorities. And then we're going to establish new priorities for Q2. And we're going to tackle any critical issues that have been standing in our way over the course of the previous few weeks. At the end of Q2, we're going to do the same thing. At the end of Q3 or Q4 rather, we're going to do the same thing. And then we get to the end of the year, end of Q4, I should say. we're going to certainly look at how we performed our quarterly against our quarterly priorities for Q4. But then we're going to step back and let's look at our plan again. So we're 1 year in. We're going to go back and we're going to revalidate and or refine our vision if it needs to be refined. If our vision needs any refinement, then our long-term targets are going to need some refinement. Those are our strategic objectives, if you will. We usually end up doing a little bit of team development. And then we establish new short-term goals for the coming 12 months and new quarterly priorities for the first quarter of that year. And so it becomes that process over and over again. So while we have a 3-year vision, that vision is subject to being refined every single year as the market, the economy, and the competition around us changes.
That's great, Jeff. And if you're still with us, then you know the value behind strategic growth and about what it's going to take. You're looking for that next level thing to be able to take your business to the level of sustainability and success that you want it to have. And so what Jeff just outlined here was a strategic growth system that he and Innovation Junkie have put together. Well, we have packaged a special opportunity for business owners and business leaders like yourself, and it's called the Strategic Growth Forum. And what this is pulls all of this whole system into a annual meeting, an annual mastermind peer-to-peer advisory group that brings in, it creates a non-compete, a very confidential space so owners and business leaders can discuss everything that we've talked about and get implemented a strategic growth system, but then give you the resources and the coaching and the encouragement and the problem solving to execute that in your business. Of course, Jeff and I could come in there and we could do this for you or do this side by side with you. And that may be something that you want to do, but the forum is a great place for leaders to really come in and hone their skills also and work together and sharpen each other, because we know that leadership is lonely at the top. And I know, Jeff, you've probably got some things to say about that too, but
yeah, for sure.
We really believe that this is going to be a great thing.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you're right. You know, that strategic growth forum, the reason we created the forum is because a one-on-one engagement or an engagement, a traditional consulting engagement with Innovation Junkie and the executive team of an organization is literally tens of thousands of dollars over the course of a 12-month period. Happy to do that. We do it all the time. I spent 2 days with an organization yesterday. I've got time next week with another organization. So I spend a lot of my time doing that. But we know that there are businesses out there that don't have that kind of financial flexibility right now, and they need the same system but implemented in a much more economical way. And that's why this peer group mastermind strategic growth forum, we think, is going to be that ideal opportunity for those particular business leaders to come together.
Absolutely. And so we want to be able to help. And so if you're interested in talking more, here's the next step. We want you to be able to click in the link in the comments and register for the next live virtual interest meeting held by me. And we're going to go through and really talk about the components of everything that you can expect in the strategic growth forum, everything that you're going to be able to accomplish. And we're so excited to be able to do that with you. And then you're going to see the unique approach that we're going to have. It's going to take this system that you just saw and implement it into an annual peer-to-peer advisory group. Like we said, a mastermind that we're going to be able to sharpen our skills as leaders and grow your business. And so the last thing is just to prepare to grow. We're so excited to be able to introduce this to business leaders like you. And we really hope that it's going to create a lot of value. We know it's going to create a lot of value because it has in over 120 companies, as you heard Jeff say earlier. But we're so excited to be able to break it down into this intimate group that's going to be able to take you further faster. So, Jeff, thank you for joining us today, and click the link below if you have any questions, or reach out to me on email. I'll be happy to connect with you.